Okay, we'll get started. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the July edition of the Coaching in Context webinar. My name is Dr. Kokon Udo. I'm the director of the Evidence-Based Coaching Program here at Fielding Graduate University. A few things before we get this webinar going is first an invitation to you to please mute yourself unless you are invited by the presenter to make a comment at any point during the course of the webinar. The second one is that we have a 90-minute webinar today, and that is due for a 1.5 CCEU through the ICF. For those of you who are interested in receiving the CCEU, please be sure to complete the survey that will be posted towards the end of the presentation. And if you can do so within the next 2 days, you will receive your certificate through the registrar's office from Fielding Graduate University. So today I have a guest presenter who is Carmen Kunquist. And I want to introduce her to you first as a friend and as a dear colleague that I have known for quite a while now. The topic that we are going to discuss today is unlock massive wealth by cracking your money code. That should sound familiar to all of you on the call. It does sound familiar to me because in the course of my own career, I have had to wrestle with, struggle with, have doubts and questions about what this whole dimension of wealth and money is. How much am I worth? How much should I charge? What's my relationship to it? Where do my beliefs come from? And some of them I trace way back to family or to religion or to other sources. But the point about that was it did all it could to get in my way of claiming whatever I needed to claim. So who better than Carmen to help us unlock that key today? So Carmen is a master money mindset business mentor, transformational healer, and inspiring international keynote speaker. We were talking before this got started. It is an area that she has mastery in, but also learning about in an ongoing way. And that has led her to many travel and presentation opportunities, both domestically and internationally. I told her I was a little bit jealous of some of our destinations that she's planning to be traveling to. She is a trailblazer in the coaching industry. Her expertise includes designing and leading a master's level coaching program at Adler Graduate School and working with C-suite executives at organizations like PricewaterhouseCoopers, Facebook, and Capella. Her ability to blend high performance business strategy with deep transformational inner work has made her a sought after authority in the field of money mindset, business scaling, and spiritual entrepreneurship. So without further delay, I want you to join me in welcoming Carmen. And as she presents, she will bring in more of herself as she deems fit in this context. So Carmen, it's a pleasure to welcome you to the Coaching in Context webinar. I'll now turn it over to you.
All right. Well, I'm honored and thank you so much. That I was so thrilled when you reached out and invited me to speak here today. Been a while since I've talked to graduate students, and I did that for 10 years at Adler Graduate School in Minneapolis. So I'm thrilled to be back kind of in my realm of my own peeps. So I'm really curious because we have a wide array of people attending here today. So I'd love for you to just introduce yourself in the chat and let me know where you come from. And I'm all about intention. My business is called Intentionality, and I named it that for a reason. I struggled coming up with the name for my business, but I believe everything is about intentions. And, you know, my motto is kind of the whole idea that when you have clarity about your intentions, you can live your truth and you can own your worth at the highest levels. So I'd like you to take a moment to think about your intention for today's workshop. And if there was one thing that you'd like to have as kind of a takeaway or something that's of interest to you, I'd love you to put that in the chat along with where you come from. So take a moment to think about that and pop that into the chat. And I've asked Okakan to help monitor the chat because during part of the presentation, I'll be sharing some slides. And I've noticed that when you're sharing a PowerPoint, you can't see the chat. So then I feel kind of disconnected. So I'm going to be bopping a little bit in and out of PowerPoint. And I hope that doesn't become disjointed for you, but I want to stay connected to you. And there are going to be parts of this workshop where there are going to be some interactive things that we'll be doing together. So just to share my intention for you, my intention is to help you uncover what's been blocking your abundance so that you can shift into wealth creation with ease and flow. Because, hey, we're all here with a definite purpose. And I believe firmly that it's part of our spiritual mission to be wealthy and to create wealth. And it took me a while to kind of get to that kind of mindset because I didn't come from that. I'll share with you a little bit about my upbringing. I believe, especially in today's world right now, if you have wealth, you have more of an ability to have impact. And if you're here with a big mission, it takes money to fund a big mission. And I believe all coaches are here to provide transformation and growth for their clients. And so I'm here to help you uncover what might be getting in the way of your wealth and abundance. But I want to start with money stories. And Okakan alluded to this in his introduction in regards to, just how we think about wealth. And every one of us has a couple things. We have a money story, and we all have a wealth blueprint, kind of like a set point where we can't imagine making more money and we can't imagine making less money. And we kind of get into this certain set point. And some of those set points are based on subconscious programming, which we're going to get into in a bit. But the good news is that you can raise your wealth blueprint. And my goal today is to show you how and to do an activity that will align you with greater wealth. So the money stories that we all have are based on, I'm going to use an Adlerian term, early recollections. So from birth to about age 7, we're all in a theta brainwave kind of state. And during that time of our lives, we take in information like a fire hose without discernment. And some of this information's good and some of it's crap. We take in all the messages from parents, from teachers, from clergy, from what we see on TV, what we see from family members, what we kind of see in society around us. And unfortunately, by the time we start having discernment, all of those messages are already kind of trapped in our subconscious. And our subconscious mind kind of fears change. It kind of locks in. And our subconscious mind, I think most of you are aware, runs about 95% of the show of all of our brain's natural processes. And so oftentimes we consciously think we want a certain thing, but subconsciously we're programmed for something else. So I want you to take a moment to also think about what was your primary money message that you received when you were little, like your earliest recollection of something that somebody said to you about money or your worthiness to have it, and share that in the chat. I'm interested to hear or see what you have to say about that. So while you're doing that, I'm going to share a little bit about my humble beginnings. And so I'm from West Central Minnesota, and I grew up on a farm by Alexandria, which the town that I grew up near was 500 people. So when I joke that I'm a hick from the sticks, I'm not kidding you. And everything in my early life revolved around hard work. And when I think about the early recollections I heard things like, we can't afford to go shopping for groceries unless it's double coupon day, you know? Money doesn't grow on trees. Or in church, we'd hear things like, money is the root of all evil. My dad would say things like, what do you think? You know, I'm made of money, you know, if you asked for a new toy or to go somewhere. And, you know, when I think about like my dad's identity as a farmer, he kind of had this money identity around like, we're just the dumb farmers. And it's funny how, you know, we tend to adopt some of those messages from parents, especially the parent that we resonate with most closely. And so my early recollections were all about I'm only worthy of having money if I suffer long enough or work hard enough to be worthy of it, to deserve it. So it was all around struggle, hard work. And, you know, and everything was hard work, you know, but I'm the oldest of three children. So by the time I was 10 years old, I was driving tractor and helping bale hay and, you know, doing a lot of chores. Some of them were pleasant, but a lot of them were really unpleasant. You know, my husband doesn't like to know that I have this certain skill set, but I had to help my dad cut balls off pigs. So that's a skill set that makes him a little bit nervous. But you know, just to give you an idea of just what it was like where I grew up, you know, it was all around not enough. And yet I had relatives who were wealthy. I had cousins who studied abroad, who had, you know, college paid for them. My dad had a cousin who was the vice president of Exxon Oil and an aunt that owned 3 banks. So it's not like there wasn't, you know, money in the family, but I always kind of had this sense that money is for other people, not me. And my mother said something to me when I was about 7 years old that just, it pissed me off, but it really stuck with me. She said, Carmen, when you grow up, you better marry a really wealthy guy because you like really nice stuff. And ooh, you know, my reaction to that was one of, well, I'll prove you wrong, because the message to me was, you're not going to get by unless you have a provider. And I was out to prove her wrong, yet somehow that push energy I had became a cycle that perpetuated through my adult life. I'm 60 years old now. I'm dating myself here, but through much of my adult life, I worked 3 jobs to get by. And I was the breadwinner. I didn't marry the wealthy guy back then. I married somebody who was dependent on me. So, you know, it was an interesting way of getting into a pattern of poverty consciousness. And if I had to think about, you know, my theme song back then, remember Donna Summer? She works hard for the money, so hard for it, honey. That would have been my theme song for much of my adult life. And so it really kind of, when I think about it, ultimately led to my why and who I serve now. As Ilka Khan shared with you in the introduction, I first started out my life as a counseling psychologist. So I went to graduate school to be a counselor. And then I went on to complete 12 coaching certifications because there was just never enough learning for me. I'm a lifelong learner. But I spent a lot of my career first in higher education. I was a director of career services at a 4-year institution, but I went 9 years without a raise. And people that I worked with either became crispy critters and just kind of, you know, they just became very kind of snipey in regards to money. And I just decided to go out and find other little side gigs. So on the side, I coached top leaders at PricewaterhouseCoopers and Facebook. I taught on the side, and some of the teaching that I did led to me taking on a position as a program director at Adler Graduate School and creating a coaching program for them. And what I noticed and then I had a little private practice on the side, and I never had to market because my students all referred me clients, my clients referred me clients, and I had speaking gigs that led to clients. So it just kind of ran itself. And I noticed that there was such a difference between the mindset of these top leaders at Price Waterhouse and Facebook versus the counselors that I was teaching in counselor education at Adler Graduate School, because they were in the mindset of trading dollars for hours, where these other, leaders were millionaires and they just had a whole different mindset. So I became fascinated. So I started to study prosperity, the mindset around it, all the tools and techniques around it. But it didn't become really part of my repertoire or reality until 2015 hit. And Okakon kind of remembers this because it was a dark night of the soul for me. So at the end of 2015, suddenly a lot of things happened in my life. 3 people I loved got cancer. And one of them was gone within 2 weeks before I even had a chance to say goodbye. The guy that I thought was the one, who was my boyfriend, just out of the blue, the day after Thanksgiving, decided to break it off with no explanation. And then I found out my program at Adler Graduate School was being cut. And I'm somebody who, helped people with their career life transition. I always had my next gig lined up, always. So the first time in my life, here I was suddenly without a job, without a plan, not knowing what the heck I was doing. And I'd lost my support system in the boyfriend that I thought was the one for me. And it was just this really dark night of the soul of reckoning of what am I going to do next or now? And, I reached out to some friends to do some brainstorming and did a lot of soul searching. But there's always a blessing in, things that happen, because I really do believe the universe has our back. I'm a very spiritually minded coach and person. And when something leaves your life, sometimes it means that something is better to come. Because 7 months later, I met my husband, who was way better than the guy that ditched me the day after Thanksgiving. I could not have imagined that. So I've been happily married to him now for almost 7 years. And for the first time in my life, I qualified for some dislocated worker money for some free training, because I was always paying for it. And so I took on, I was very interested in neuroscience coaching, trying to understand, like, how do you change things on the subconscious level? I was trying to understand the brain and better how the brain works. And I also discovered a new methodology called theta healing. I met this woman who had a great vibe, and we had great conversations. And she was telling me that she was a theta healer. And I'm like, what's that? How's that different from coaching? So I had a session with her, and I was just intrigued by how you can make changes on the subconscious level very quickly in a very different way than coaching. And I'll explain a little bit about that further down in my presentation. But I went on and got certified in this. And all my people in the career coaching world kind of said, hey, Carmen, you better not share that, because that's real woo-woo and you're going to chase people away. And, I've been in a mastermind for about 16 years, and I took their advice. And I wish I wouldn't have, because the minute I started working some of these techniques into what I do, this is when I started getting the thank you letters. I started working in it with my virtual clients first. And all of a sudden people were like, I got my dream job, or I reached my goal more quickly. This and this and this happened in my life. I manifested this. And the transformation, which I love, I just love seeing people get results, was happening so rapidly. The testimonials I was getting were so amazing that I decided I wasn't going to hide this anymore from the world, and I was going to share it. So that's why I'm really excited to share it with you now, because it led to me now doing, my little infomercial. I'm going to read it so I don't get it wrong. Is this: impact-driven coaches, thought leaders, and healers hire me to elevate them to a 7-figure income because they're sick and tired of doing too much for too little, feeling depleted, and out of alignment with their divine purpose. So I help them eliminate head trash, such as unworthiness, imposter syndrome, self-sabotage, fear, and money blocks that prevent them from achieving the success and consistent cash flow that they desire. So with my assistance, they create a signature high-ticket program that they can sell with ease to their right fit client. And I have a bottom line guarantee that they reach 7 figures in 2 years or less guaranteed if they're in my high-ticket program. And my other thing is to help people enjoy more time freedom and joy in their entrepreneurial journey, because so many times we all think we need to be in this hustle and grind. And yet there are ways to create cash flow with ease and flow. So I'm going to share my PowerPoint with you now. And thanks for throwing in the chat. I'm just seeing people from all over, and just wish I had a chance to get to know you all personally, but I'm just so glad you're here. So I'm going to share my PowerPoint with you now and just share some money truths with you.
Carmen, let me make you a co-host so you can do that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I think.
Oops. Oh, I gotta go way back. So we'll share this so you can see better. And I'm just going to move the gallery up. Oops. Whoa, 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 whoa. So I want to start with just money truths and just some things that I've learned as I've delved into this, because, you know, I didn't expect to use the theta healing work in a way of helping people clear money blocks. It wasn't my plan, but suddenly people were showing up and just asking me, like, can you clear money blocks? And I'm like, sure. And what was funny is, as I was working with people and energy testing them, I was uncovering my own blocks. But some of the truths that I learned about money were, the first thing is that money is infinite and it's always circulating, where I think so much of the world and the way we've been taught is the thought that there's only a finite amount of money. So say if Oka Khan has his piece of the pie, that means there's less for me. And there's a lot of that out there right now you see in the world. Like so-and-so gets their money, takes away from me. That's not true. Money is infinite and it's always circulating. And the second money truth is that I mentioned this earlier, that we are all worthy of abundance and it's part of our spiritual mission. So you didn't come into this world where God just stamped you on the forehead and said, hey, you're worthy. You're not. You know, you're maybe worthy of a little bit of money. Oh, you're going to be in poverty for the rest of your life. We are all worthy because we're powerful creators of having the best life and money and financial situation that we can conceive of. Money truth number 3, money loves a definite purpose. And it's a tool to fund your dreams and to help you live your truth and your purpose. So the more you have a clear why of why you want to create wealth, the more it's attracted to you. Money truth number 4, everything's energy. Everything. From the desk in the chair that you're sitting in or at, to your own physical body, to everything. And because everything is energy, everything that is energy has a vibrational alignment. So it's trying to understand how you can get more in vibrational alignment with money. So to create more money, you have to vibrate at a higher frequency. So it's really raising your vibration up to a higher level. And the last truth is that your income can only grow to the extent that you do. And it's kind of like the whole Napoleon Hill success principle, you know, it's just that to be successful, create a mastermind. Success loves company. Now, you know, don't be daunted by the mastermind story that I shared with you, because in 16 years of being part of a mastermind, it's really helped me in so many ways because I've had this support and learning of this wonderful group of people where the trust is just incredible. And they gave me some bad advice about not sharing my 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 theta healing work because they were worried that it might chase people away. But usually, a mastermind is people that are invested in your success, high achievers, high vibrational people that elevate you. So if you can't join a mastermind, think about how you might create one for yourself. Because, we're all here, I think, in the end, to help walk each other home. So find your high vibe tribe. And if you want to learn more about money, seek it out. There's so much more out there on YouTube and just out there now in terms of tools and resources to help you. But the ultimate money truth I love from T. Harv Eker is how you do money is how you do everything. So I think it's just really telling to be aware of how you do money. If you hold on to it tightly because you're afraid it'll never come back to you, or if you believe it's for other people and not for you, like I did for a long time in my life. But it's to become more aware of how you do money. So a little bit about money mindset. You've heard me talk about a wealth blueprint, and it's like, what the heck is a wealth blueprint? It really is just the energy and the patterns around how you manifest, how you have or be with money, how you spend, save, invest money, and where it becomes kind of a set point. And it's comprised of both your subconscious and conscious beliefs about money, how you perceive yourself, your self-concept in relationship with money. Do you see yourself as somebody who is just always, just barely making ends meet? Or do you see yourself with an overflow of abundance where opportunities come to you easily? How worthy do you feel in deserving of receiving money? So where are your thoughts there? Are they empowering or disempowering? And what is your self-talk about money? And especially as coaches, where we tend to give a lot of ourselves, how do you value and spend your time? How do you value your services, your expertise, and the experience that you bring to the table? Because that comprises your money mindset as well. So I always ask the question, are you a deliberate creator or are you a default creator? Because regardless, you're always creating. That's what we're here to do. We're here to create, to learn, to grow, to expand. And every person I believe that comes into our lives is both a student and a teacher, sometimes both. And we are that to every person that we encounter. And, rich people, I like the T. Harv Eker quote, rich people believe I create my life. Poor people believe life just happens to me. So it's kind of a victim mentality versus more of a powerful mentality of, hey, you know what, I'm in charge. I have control over how I create my life by the way I think, by the way I program, by what I focus on, by the people I surround myself with, by the boundaries I have in my life around people, but also the boundaries I have about money. And I like the Genevieve Davis quote, which is complaining is creating. Regardless of what you're talking about, you're either talking about what you want or what you don't want. And often we spend a lot of time talking about what we don't want, not what we do want. And the universe really pays attention to that, and what you focus on grows. And so your thoughts become your beliefs become your words become your actions become your habits, and your habits become your destiny. And I know I got that quote from someone and somewhere a long time ago, and I can't remember where it's from. It's not mine, but I've always loved that quote. So, your first assignment is to pay attention to what are you focusing on? Is it what you want or what you don't want? So let's talk about the brain, which I get all excited about. And I'm taking a program right now called Brain Soul Success. So I'm learning even more about the brain and programming. But the role of the subconscious mind really is to keep you safe. It's more that primal part of your brain that gets you into the fight, flight, freeze mode. It fears change because change might be dangerous. And it also gets hooked on old stories that give you a dopamine effect. Old stories that no longer work, like how you say, like, hey, this always happens to me. Anytime money comes in, I lose it. It goes out. I attract a big expense that depletes it from my bank account. Or, when you tell these old stories, you sometimes get a dopamine effect that perpetuates these old stories. But your subconscious mind often lies to you. It tells you you're not worthy, that you're not enough, that you need another whole certification in order to charge what you're worth. It just it keeps you kind of trapped in the past. And so, we talked about your subconscious brain being programmed early on in life. And the theta brain state is just one of the many brain states that we have. They operate at different levels of frequency. So like your beta brain state and your alpha brain state are when you're conscious, like when you're, performing tasks, like what I'm doing now. But the theta brain state is more of a meditative state. So it's that state that you're in right before you fall asleep, just as you're kind of drifting off or as you're waking up. So those are powerful times to program your brain and your subconscious, but also when you get into meditation. And the good news is, even if you've had really crappy beliefs that have been trapped in your subconscious, you can reprogram them. And the way to replace disempowering beliefs is by getting back into a theta brainwave state. And that's something that we're going to do today. And that's part of the work that I do when I work with people in the programs that I offer, and also in the groups or in the one-on-one work that I do. So a little bit more about this. And again, if you're interested in learning a little bit more about theta healing, the author is Vianna Stibel. And there's a lot of books out there on theta healing. And her name is spelled Vianna, Vianna, and the last name is spelled Stibal. And I've taken 4 of her certifications and just learned a lot. It's changed radically what I do and the transformation that I'm able to achieve with clients. But we carry beliefs on 4 levels. And core beliefs are all the beliefs that you have accumulated from birth to where you are now in this lifetime. And where we hold those are in our pineal gland, which is our third eye. So right in the middle of your forehead. And again, the most important ones are the early recollections, because, they program your subconscious. But we also carry genetic beliefs. And we carry beliefs that go back 7 generations or more on both sides of the family, both mom and dad. And we hold those beliefs in the field around our physical DNA. And this is where another book I might recommend to you is called It Didn't Start With You, from Mark Woolham. Great book, just explaining the science behind this, because science can now prove it back 3 generations on how beliefs and certain programs are carried on from grandparents and great-grandparents. And you might think, wow, I don't consciously believe that, but maybe one of your great-grandparents, encountered a lot of poverty. You think back to the Great Depression and, a few generations back, or if your family members were ancestors like mine were to this country, times were hard. There were a reason that they left their country to come here. On both sides of my family, I'm third generation ancestor. And, I uncovered a lot of ancestral beliefs that were poverty consciousness around, money. History belief levels are really interesting because these beliefs relate to past lives. So just, oaths and vows or soul contracts are karma from past lives, but also how we buy into group consciousness. And that's kind of the collective consciousness of all of us. And this is where we accept certain things as being true or not true, are possible or impossible. How we believe certain things are curable or incurable, how we latch onto certain group conscious beliefs, but also things that we pick up. And it's amazing in the work that I do, how I uncover where there are oaths and vows that exist, or soul contracts that exist on that history level that need to be cleared out. We hold those in our auric field, which is kind of our energy bubble around us that protects our energy field. And then our soul level beliefs are our deep identity beliefs that, the you that's always been here through various iterations of time, that came here now, chose to be here now, to grow and expand and learn. And we hold those beliefs in our heart. So when I work with people, I always like to uncover, where are you holding those beliefs? Because I think people are often very fascinated to find out, what level are those beliefs on? Because they can be traced. So let me explain a little bit how this works, and then we're going to do it. Woohoo! So I want to first talk about how you clear up money blocks and just how theta healing works. I'm not going to get into the deep scientific explanations of it because there's not enough time to do that, and yet have some experiential parts and leave some time for Q&A as well. But first assignment for you is that if you're bringing money into your life or anything new that you want to manifest or create, you need to create space for it. And so many of us are carrying around too much damned clutter. And clutter can be physical, tangible clutter, like too much stuff. And it can be intangible clutter or emotional clutter. And I'll talk first about the physical and tangible clutter. When I'm first working with somebody, I always say, your first assignment is to clear out, if you have too much clutter, go Marie Kondo and get rid of the extra stuff that you're not needing or that doesn't spark joy. So when it comes to physical clutter, I always ask the question, is it beautiful? Is it useful? Is it practical? Is it serving you in some way to hold on to it? If not, get rid of it. If it doesn't spark joy by you having whatever it might be, you don't need it. When I told you about that dark night of the soul at the end of 2015, I purged. I did kind of a feng shui clearing in my house, and I brought 12 carloads of stuff to Goodwill. I overly purged. I got a little bit too gung-ho. There was some stuff I was a little regretful of later. But if you need things later, you can always get it back. But too much physical clutter often limits you from travel and from doing other things in your life, but it clogs up your energy. But emotional clutter, wow, emotional clutter takes the form of regrets. I wish I would have done this, or regret that I did that. Resentments that you've built up, where you haven't forgiven yourself or someone else, and you're carrying a resentment or a grudge. Some of the more difficult emotional aspects of clutter are shame, blame, heartbreak, and trauma. I would say heartbreak and trauma are some of the most difficult ones to clear because we often don't want to deal with those. We often bury those. We often want to turn away from that pain instead of going in in dealing with it and coming out on the other side of it. I'm just going to give you a brief example of this in my life. And some of you maybe have heard this story before if you've ever heard me speak. And this is a story about my own family. My mom comes from a family of 6 children that were born within 6.5 years. My mom's an identical twin. And my grandfather just up and divorced my grandmother after 49 years of marriage. And I was a senior in college at the time. My mom was in her early 40s. It was a shock to the entire family. And because my mom was really supporting my grandmother, who was heartbroken, my grandmother didn't see it coming. And furthermore, she felt betrayed because my grandfather married her best friend. So there was the heartbreak of loss and the betrayal. My grandfather and my mother did not talk for 5 years. So there was a grudge there. And because mom wasn't talking to grandpa, we weren't either. And my grandpa was kind of this Archie Bunker type, if you remember All in the Family. He was kind of this bullish, I know best type, kind of this strong German persona that you didn't question. And he wasn't emotional, and he'd punish you actually if you showed your emotions, which I got punished a lot because I was the emotional kid. And so it was kind of a hard time. And then my grandfather got ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease. And my father kept after my mother to release that grudge and to make amends with her father, and just said, you need to forgive him. Why don't we go visit him in the nursing home? And my mom just kind of had this, no, he did this and this and this, and I don't want to deal with him again. And my dad finally one day, they were going for a Sunday drive. And my mom's like, where are we going? And my dad's like, we're going to the nursing home to visit your dad. Do you want to deal with this now? Will you have a chance to make amends with him while he's alive? Or do you want to carry around this burden for the rest of your life? And so they went into the nursing home, and my grandfather was so thrilled to see her. I tend to get emotional over this story. That he held her hands, and for the very first time in her life, he told her he loved her. She had never, ever been told, none of her siblings had ever heard the words from him, I love you. And because she was able to come and make amends and forgive him, she finally heard those words at age like 41. And it unleashed this whole, I don't know what it just unleashed this energy by having this forgiveness in our family. It lifted a burden that I didn't even realize existed, not just on my mother, but all of us, because there was just this big grudge, and we became part of it. And from that time until my grandfather passed away, my mom spent time with him, at least once or twice a week. And it really changed everything. So I always ask people to think about, where have you not forgiven yourself for a mistake that you made? Because we're also human. Where have you not forgiven another person? Because you're carrying around a lot of weight that's not hurting that other person, because you're carrying around this burden. So clear out that emotional clutter, clear out that physical clutter. The theta healing, let me explain how this works. So in my introduction, Oka kind of introduced me as a healer. And I always feel a little bit like I shouldn't be saying that, because God, the creator, however you want to use that word, I believe in a higher power. And we all have different ways to express that. Source energy, the universe, God, Jesus, whatever. But, God, the creator, is the healer. I'm the facilitator who structures the process. And what I do is help people get at the root, because whatever issues people come to me with are surface level. And usually there's a root issue. And how this differs from coaching. I want to make that distinction because, I'm assuming that you're all coaches and I'm a coach too, and I've been in my field since I was 26 years old. So I've done a lot of coaching, but this isn't a sense of forcing people to relive past trauma. It's not allowing people to get really deeply into their story. Digging is a series of a lot of questioning: who, what, where, when, how. And usually I want to know, like, if somebody comes to me with an issue, or I'll ask the question if they're not sure where to start. If life were perfect, what would be different for you right now? If you could wave that magic wand, what would be different for you? And then I want to dig to what's getting in the way of that. And I'll get down to a root level. And what I use is energy testing. And what I'm doing as we're doing this is we both get into a theta state, and we're going to do that in just a little bit here. And I'm going to invite you to do some digging on yourself and to get at the root cause. In your case, I'm going to be asking you the question: what might be getting in the way of you having the money that you want? But then it's a co-creation of divine energy, because by getting at the root cause, I get to find out what's the program, what's the root belief that's getting in the way of what you want. But what I always want to do is find out, how did it serve you? Because even crappy belief systems protected you, served you, helped you in some way. And there's often a lesson and a gift there. And then, because if you haven't learned the lesson and a gift, sometimes you recreate old programs. And so in order to release it, what was the lesson and the gift? What did you learn? And then what do you want to replace it with? But I use energy testing to determine if people have certain beliefs or programs, or if they're carrying around certain feelings. I'm going to use one example that related to money. I come in and do mindset work for another coach who is more of a sales and marketing messaging coach. And so I work with her clients. We have kind of a little trade agreement. And one of her clients is a doctor. Well, her doctorate is in industrial IO psychology. And she was going from a job in the corporate world where she made good money and very consistent income into having her own business, and where suddenly money was not consistent for her. And we did some work around, her beliefs and, uncovering some limiting things. But one day she made the comment: Carmen, I don't know why I can't make more than $1,000 a month in coaching. I don't know why people aren't willing to pay me more. Where when I was in the corporate world, I made a lot of money. So I'm just right then and there, my intuition is going ding, 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 ding. So we did an energy test to determine whether her wealth blueprint was set at only $1,000 a month for coaching. Sure enough, it came up as true for her. So I asked her, how has that served you? And she's like, well, I didn't feel really confident as a coach in owning my own business at first. So maybe it was okay that I charged less to learn what I wanted to learn and feel confident, so that I could get to a point where I can charge my worth now for the coaching and transformation that I provide. I'm like, okay, so what do we want to do now? What do you want your wealth blueprint to be set at? And she said $15,000 a month. I'm like, okay. So we went into the theta state. I did the shift of releasing the old program, downloaded the new program, but I also added in a download of feelings of what it would feel like to make $15,000 a month as a coach. If she's never done that before, it's like asking the creator to teach you the knowledge and the feeling of what it's like to make that kind of money per month, and then to adopt the identity of a coach who makes that much per month. And then we went back and energy tested to make sure that it took. And a month later, she was making $15,000 a month in coaching. So I'm going to stop the share for just a moment. And I just want to ask, how many of you have ever used energy testing before and know what the heck I'm talking about? Just like maybe a quick show of hands. Okay, a few people. Okay, so I feel it's my duty just to give you just a very quick primer on what energy testing is all about. Energy testing is tapping into your higher power, your higher consciousness that knows what is yes or no for you, that knows what's truth or false for you. Now, in order to energy test correctly, you need to be hydrated. And a lot of people don't drink enough water. Like when I've tried to do energy testing with my husband, who drinks coffee all day long, this guy is so highly caffeinated. I had to make him drink like 3 glasses of water, but also to take some Himalayan sea salt, because a pinch of Himalayan sea salt fools your body into thinking it's hydrated. So when I'm working with clients and energy testing them for the first time, I always make sure, like, let's just make it foolproof. I'm going to have you take a pinch of Himalayan sea salt, wash it down with some water, make sure you're hydrated. And the ways that you energy test, there are many. You can do it just with your arm. The whole idea is your muscles are going to be strong if something is true or a yes for you. So if I were to pull down on that, it would be strong if it was yes or true. But if it was no or false for you, it would go weak. If you're doing it on yourself, a pendulum works. A pendulum is probably one of the easiest ways to do energy testing if you're first learning how, and you got to program it. And one thing you want to do first if you're programming a pendulum is run it under water or dip it in water to clear it out. And then you want to program it so that yes is front and back and no is side to side. And so if I'm just doing like, and making a statement, I'll do with my pendulum, and I'm just going to use this as a demonstration. I'll just say, my name is Carmen. And I get a clear back and forward. And then I'll spin it again and say, my name is Okakan. And it's going to go side to side. It's a no. So that's one way. Another way that you can do this is something called the sway test. And this is a front and backward. And so, I would say, like, do this mind gym first, which balances your polarity. So put your hands here for a few seconds. And then you're going to uncross them. It's one of the mind gyms that I teach, which I don't have time to do today, but it's a really great brain hack that balances polarity. And this also balances your polarity too, brings you into balance for present time. But if you just state out that you say something that's true, like my name is Carmen, I'm going to go forward slightly. And if I were to say something that's false or a no, like my name is Okakan, and you'll find yourself drift backward. Another way that you can energy test is by using your thumb and your ring finger together and having them be strong. And then you use your other fingers, like making a ring. And if it's strong, it's going to hold tight. But if something is weak or a no or false, it's going to go through. So that's what I mean by energy testing. So I wanted to make sure that you're aware of that before we get into, doing this. But before we do this, I want to talk about what some typical fears and blocks are that get in the way of people having wealth and abundance. And so when I'm doing the digging and, and asking people, this is what often comes up. Gee, if I make more money, I'm just going to have to pay it to the government and pay higher taxes. Well, that's part of the deal, And while I might not have any control over how my tax dollars are spent. It's just part of the deal that if you make more money, you're going to pay higher taxes. And so when I'm working with people, I always say, can you flip it so that you value the things that your tax dollars provide, like valuing good education, good roads, good schools, good infrastructure, being kept safe by the military and by law enforcement, having clean air and water. Think about the value you get for your taxes, and it shifts it to a positive. Guilt about charging for your services or feeling like you're going to leave people behind if you raise your fees. I hear this with a lot of people who are in the helping profession. Like, gosh, if I raise my fees, so-and-so won't be able to afford it. I'm going to price myself, I'm going to lose clients. You know what? I found that by charging higher rates, I get better and more motivated clients who get results because they have more skin in the game. They're more motivated and they require less work. And you can still provide things at lower rates for people to consume. You can still offer a free webinar like I'm doing here. Your services can still be, available to people, but you can still charge a premium rate and be worthy of it. Sometimes people have this fear like, gosh, if I make more money, everybody's gonna be looking for a handout. They're going to be coming to me. They're going to be looking for me to fund their project or to pay for this or that. And I always say, no is a full stop sentence, right? And it's just like having boundaries in any other area of your life. You get to have boundaries about who you help and who you don't, and how you spend your money. Sometimes people have fears around they're afraid that if they get money, it'll be a burden because they're afraid they won't handle it well. Like, oh, it's going to become this big burden for me to manage because I never learned how to invest or manage money. And I always just say, we always have the choice between having a fixed mindset or growth mindset. So somebody with a fixed mindset thinks, gosh, I never grew up with wealth. I never learned how to manage money. So therefore, why bother? A growth mindset is, I can learn. There's so much out there. There are financial advisors, there are courses, there are things on YouTube. There's so much information out there that I can tap into, so I can learn. Sometimes people feel like, oh gosh, I'm afraid that if I make more money, I just won't fit in with people that I love anymore. I won't fit in with my friends or family, so I'm going to stay small. Sometimes people feel like I might become greedy, selfish, or unethical if I make more money because, hey, you saw it in a movie or you read about it on TV or saw it on Facebook, how some greedy, unethical person took advantage of others. I think you have the latitude to choose how you are with money. You don't just naturally become greedy, selfish, or unethical. You don't transform into that. And I know poor people who are greedy and unethical and selfish. And I know wealthy people who are very generous and ethical and have high integrity. So I don't think you just naturally change, okay? But that's a fear some people have. Sometimes people have a fear with how money comes to them. Sometimes people just feel very unworthy of having wealth or abundance. Being stuck at certain set points. We've talked about that earlier. Sometimes people have taken oaths and vows of poverty on the history level. And I'll give you one quick example of that. I worked with one of the top coaches in the Twin Cities, top leadership coach, who came to me because he would crack like the six-figure mark in his coaching practice, and then some expense would come up and he'd lose it. So we did some theta healing and work around it. And I found out that on the subconscious level, he had taken an oath of poverty. He had been once a priest in a past life. And so we cleared that out, we marked it complete, and we replaced that subconscious belief with an empowering one. And it changed his trajectory completely in terms of his ability to earn and keep and continue to make more money. And sometimes people just don't know, like I mentioned, what it's like to receive wealth at a higher level, or what it feels like to be wealthy, or the identity of a wealthy person. So, what are the things that get in the way of, you achieving of clearing out the blocks? People who don't believe it's possible to achieve their goal. So if you come to me and we're working together and you just don't think it's possible, you get to be right. We all get to be right. If I, as the practitioner, didn't believe it was possible, sadly, that impacts you as well. If we haven't gotten to that root issue or block, there might be something deeper that still needs to be addressed. Because sometimes these things come off in layers, okay? You peel off one layer and then there's still another layer that we need to get to. So there are layers sometimes that need to be worked through to get at what's preventing you from the wealth that you desire. Sometimes people aren't ready to let go of their current situation because it's still serving them in some way, and they're not ready to let go of it. And I can think of all kinds of situations in which I've worked with clients. I've worked with a lot of clients who have anxiety, and some very successfully have released it. But I think of one in particular, her story still gets a payoff. It gets her special treatment. It allows her to have companion animals in a place that allows no pets. It allows her certain privileges in her family. So she's not going to get rid of that story because she keeps telling the story, I have anxiety. And when we did this work, I just said, you got to start imprinting a different story now in order for this to stick. But she wasn't ready because she's still getting a payoff from anxiety. The last thing that will get in the way of clearing blocks is, it's one thing to release old blocks and barriers, but you got to replace it with something new. And you have to imprint it, kind of like the old Napoleon Hill with autosuggestion. We talk about affirmations and imprinting. You have to reinforce the new program and get that new program in there. So those are some things to kind of set up what we're going to do. So what I'm going to ask you to do right now is to close your eyes and be willing to get into a theta state with me. So I'm going to have you just, close your eyes, and I'm going to have you do some deep breaths, breathing through your nose and then breathing out through your mouth and just holding. We're going to have you do about 4 to 5 deep breaths. So we're just going to do this together. So breathe in and breathe out. Breathe in and breathe out. Breathe in and breathe out. And breathe in and breathe out. And I'm going to have you imagine that your feet are connected to Mother Earth, and that they're going down into Mother Earth, and that they're tethered, and that you're bringing up energy from the earth. And that energy is coming up through the bottom of your feet, and it's moving up through your ankles, and it's moving up through your knees, through your hips, through your solar plexus, through your heart, through all your chakra centers. And it's going up and out through your crown chakra. And as it goes through your crown chakra, it's forming a beautiful ball of light. Imagine that your consciousness is in this ball of light. Take note of what color that beautiful ball of light is. Now I'm going to have you imagine that you're pushing this ball of light up past the room that you're in right now, up over the building you're in right now, up past the universe, up through layers and layers of light. You're going to push through a golden light and layer, and you're going to push into a thick jelly-like substance that is the laws of the universe. And we're going to just ask the law of compassion to push us into the seventh plane of energy, into a sparkly, tingly white light. This light is tingly, and this energy feels amazing. You feel connected to all that is. This is the energy of love and creation. And you're going to ask this energy to clear out all of your energy systems, to clear out any stuck negative energy, and to send that negative, dark, stuck energy to the Creator for transmutation. And now we're going to ask in that seventh plane energy for guidance. And I'm going to share with you a prayer. And it's called the Abundance Change Me prayer. Creator, open me, because I'm ready. I don't want the exhausting burden of worrying about money anymore. I'm done, and I release my concerns to you. Open me up to whatever I'm meant to receive from this sacred process today of theta healing. Help me let go of any old beliefs and feelings that get in the way of your plan for my life. May I know the good I can do as an embodiment of divine abundance. Change me into one who can fully love, forgive, and accept myself so I may carry your light and love without restrictions. Change me, Divine Creator, into one who fully trusts that all of my true needs are always abundantly met through your bounty. Let me surrender and allow you to be my source for all. Let me breathe, relax, and let you lead. I am safe and I am peaceful. Change me, open me. Let me be an easy, open conduit for your prosperity. May I receive all that is meant for me over the next few weeks and beyond. Let me know my own worthiness to receive in every possible way. And let me play with these new ideas as an adventure. And then let me embrace what happens according to your will. Let everything that needs to go, go. And let everything that needs to come, come. Make me receptive to the unexpected ways in which prosperity can flow to me easily. I am yours, you are mine, we are one, and all is well. Now, while you are in this frame, I want you to think about what is the biggest belief that is blocking your wealth right now. And just ask for the law of truth and the Creator to identify it for you. Now, what is the biggest benefit, or what is the benefit of that limiting belief or the story that you have about money? How has it served you? What lesson or gift might have you gained from this? What would happen if you let go of that old story? How would you be seen by the other people in your life if you totally embraced abundance and were the wealthy person? So now, what belief do you want to replace that old disempowering belief with? Why do you want it? What feelings and knowledge would support your new reality? How will your self-concept shift to embody a new wealthy identity? And while we're in this state of state, I'm going to ask you to, I'm going to do this for you on your behalf, but I need your permission because the law of the universe that can't be bent or broken is the law of free will. We all have free will. So I'm going to ask you to release this old program and replace it with a new program on all levels. And I'm going to do this on your behalf with the creator, tapping into your subconscious as well as divine energy. And then I'm going to take a moment to witness it. And then after I do this, I'm going to invite you to a download of abundance. So first of all, with your permission, I'm going to just invite and command that this old program be gone and be replaced with a new program that you identified. And the download is this. And to accept this download, you just need to say yes. I understand the creator's definition of attracting wealth. I understand what it feels like to attract wealth. I know how to attract wealth in the highest and best way possible. I know how to live my daily life attracting wealth and abundance. I know the creator's perspective, definition, and understanding on attracting wealth. I know that it's possible for me to attract wealth. And I know that it's possible for me to have the identity of a wealthy entrepreneur. And I ask that these downloads be given to us now on all 4 belief levels. It is done, it is done, it is done. Thank you for showing me. All right. You can come back now. So I invite you to put in the chat if you felt a shift, or if you want to share just what kind of beliefs came up for you that were limiting when we went into the 7th plane meditation. Like what came up and how did you feel? I know for me, when this shifts, my whole heart chakra, it's like getting a buzz. It's like I went out and got drunk or something. I just feel this amazing, energetic, loving buzz of excitement. And that's how I know it's shift, because I stay in that energy long enough to witness it, but also to feel it here in my heart chakra on behalf of all of you, because I'm kind of the surrogate and the facilitator. So I invite you to just share, in the chat, how this was for you. And while you're doing that, I'm going to pop back into the PowerPoint. I'm going to share one more time for the remainder of the presentation. I need to go into a few things because I didn't. Okay, so, and what I would do at the very end, if I were working with you individually, I would energy test to make sure it was gone, because, and this is, for those of you that are taking notes, this is the whole process that I walked you through, the belief that was blocking you, How did it serve you? You know, and just all the questions that I asked you. And then the last step that I would do, we're not going to do because it's hard to do this with a whole group, but just to be energy testing to make sure it's gone. So to imprint the new program, you got to create some new money rules. So you want to decide, how do you want your relationship to money with money to be? Just like any other relationship you have in your life. You know, you have rules for how you want your relationship to be in regards with friends. You have boundaries in regards to how you want to be treated. So think about, you know, how do you want your relationship with money to be? But you have to also realize that it's a two-way street. You need to nurture and treat money well. And, you know, kind of like, you know, just like you court, you know, somebody that you love, you know, so, you know, it's that whole idea that money is there for you, supports you, is attracted to you, that it's not just there for other people, but you are a conduit and a magnet for money as well. And we've talked about auto suggestions and declarations. And so again, you know, imprinting new beliefs that reinforce the new programs that you want to have about money. And we're going to do that right now. And after you do that, again, you always want to express gratitude that your desire is on its way to you. And even if you only have a little bit of money right now, you want to be thankful for everything that you have, even if it's just a little bit, because we all have something to be thankful for. So walking down a financial goal. I'd love for someone to, you know, to be a surrogate for this right now, you know, to just, you know, for someone would be interested in doing this with me. And I'll just stop the share here. If I have a volunteer. So there's Errol Johnson who's got his hand up here. Are you willing to be? Okay. Or Jody? I'm just gonna, Errol, I don't have your camera on. I'm always leery of bringing on somebody who doesn't, who has their hand up but they don't have their camera on, because I'm not sure if you're there. So Jody, I'm gonna pick you. Oops. And you disappeared. I don't know where you went.
Jody is there.
Jody, okay. Is there a way to bring her to the, okay, I'm gonna just view you. See if I can bring you to the front.
Caroline, can you help?
Yes,
Okay,
I'm
good.
trying to help.
I unmuted Jody at least, and then I will spotlight Jody in just a moment.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
So Jody, thank you for volunteering and welcome to our session today. And so we're going to just get clear on your financial goal. So what is your financial goal?
Like monthly, annually, what are we thinking?
What would be an annual financial goal for you? Or let's take it now. We're kind of halfway through the year.
Okay.
We're here in July. So if you're looking at what you wanted to make by the end of 2025, what would come to mind?
I feel like what's resonating for me, I don't know why, is from the balance forward, I would love to clear 80,000, like from today forward.
Okay, 80,000. So what's going to be different for you when you make $80,000? What's going to be different? How would it change your life?
Peace of mind.
Okay, peace of mind. What would you be doing that you're not doing now?
I was going to say maybe not being in survival mode about it.
Okay. What would you be saying?
Maybe allowing too, like as it comes forward, I'm like, I'll probably be allowing.
Okay, perfect. What would you be saying to yourself that you're not saying right now?
I would be saying, like there's a line of people waiting, like I have a wait list. That's also my
Okay.
goal, a coaching wait list.
I've got a wait list of people that want my services. Okay, wonderful. And you kind of mentioned how you'd be feeling, but how would you be feeling that you're not feeling right now?
Calm.
Calm, okay, peace of mind, calm. And then how would this be honoring your higher self?
it would be honoring my higher self because I'm a brilliant human being and a brilliant coach that helps people heal at their core level, which I think essentially helps change the world. And so that was my gift, and I feel like I'm sitting over here on it,
Okay.
not
So
sharing it.
You're
Yeah.
you're not only you're honoring yourself, but also the people that are going to benefit from what you do.
For sure.
Awesome. Thank you, Jody,
Ah, thank
for being
you.
my volunteer here. And so I'm going to go back and share the PowerPoint again. And so walking down that financial goal, and I want all of you to do this with me because I'm going to ask you to create a new money mantra. And so as Jody did, and I want you to go back and answer those questions. Your goal, what's going to be different, how it's going to change your life. What are you going to be doing that you're not doing now? What are you going to be saying to yourself that you're not saying now? What are you going to be feeling that you're not feeling now? And how is this going to honor your higher self? So I want you to write this down because this is your new money mantra. I see myself manifesting blank amount of money by, let's just say as a date by the end of 2025. Okay. But you can feel free to put in a different date if it serves you best. And number two, the money that I'm manifesting is for the following purpose. This is your why. And as I mentioned, money is attracted to people who have a really powerful purpose. And number three, I feel the emotions of, like Jody said, I feel peace of mind and calm that the fulfillment of my desires will bring. Or maybe excitement that I have a whole line of clients that I can work with whose lives I'm going to help transform. But really get in touch with your emotions. And the fourth is just a statement. I'm open to expanding my ability to receive the money that I know is coming my way. You're telling the universe right there, I'm open. And I'm going to ask you to do something with number 5, which I got from T. Harv Eker. I know that I'm worthy of receiving the wealth and abundance I desire because I have a millionaire mind, and I want you to touch your pineal gland right in the center of your forehead and say that with me. I know that I'm worthy of receiving wealth and abundance because I have a millionaire mind, and touch your forehead. And then I'd like you to create a wealthy identity statement. The example that I'm sharing with you here is, this is mine. I see myself becoming someone who has more money than she knows what to do with. Because when I say that, I have ease and flow, like, I have more money than I know what to do with. There's a certain kind of lightness and ebullience and joy when I say that, because, oh, more money than I know what to do with. Oh my gosh, I can find things to do with it, but it's kind of that identity of, wow, anything is possible. And I'm so excited to welcome this in. So we're going to then talk about your future self. Oops. It went back instead. Sorry. So your self-concept is really critical because a lot of times people just have their financial goal like, gee, I want to be a millionaire within 2 years. And instead, you really have to get your self-concept to match that future self. It's a way that you get there more quickly. And I love the book by Dan Sullivan and Benjamin Hardy. I don't know if you've read that one before, but Be Your Future Self Now. If you haven't before, boy, I highly recommend it. And I would even suggest writing a letter to your future self about your wealthy future self. We're not going to take the time to do that because we're really getting short on time here, really. But I want you to really think about yourself 2 years out and really think about how that wealthy version of you thinks, acts, feels about money, how you show up in the world differently, how you be. And I encourage you to start embodying those qualities and actions now. And then decide that you're no longer available for self-shaming thoughts about money or your worthiness to have it. So really get in touch with your future self. I'm going to skip the Geotran because this requires some explanation and we're really short on time. And that's part of the brain soul success formula that I'm learning with the codes. That will take me a little bit more time and energy that I put it in and thought I might have some time to do that. And it will be just too low on time. So just as a recap, manifesting money, first of all, write down your dominant thoughts about money without judgment and release and reframe the limiting ones. And especially if you do this in a theta state or work with somebody, because, we all lack objectivity about ourselves. And it's even more powerful if you co-create with another person. Get clear on what you want, put it in positive terms instead of saying what I don't want. I don't want to be broke. I don't want to be a bag lady. What do you want to be? I want to be wealthy. I want to have this. And keep your focus there. Imprinting, think and reinforce your new thoughts about money. And believe and vibe with that new thought, because the more emotion and certainty that you add to it, the more likely that universe is going to bring it to you. It has to. It's the law of attraction. Then step into the self-concept of a wealthy person. So if you don't know what it feels like to be wealthy, and again, we did the download on that, but get into the feeling, start hanging around wealthy people. How would you act and be differently, again, if you have the wealth that you desire? And then be led, allow divine guidance for inspired action to create wealth. And expand your ability to receive money, knowing that you're worthy of the best that the universe has to offer. And lastly, express gratitude for all the blessings that you receive. So I just want to end with this, like, why not you? Because now is your time to go all in. And again, I'm going to get back to my motto, which is when you have clarity about your intentions, you can live your truth and own your worth at the highest levels. And I want for all of you to do, be, and have that. And so I'm going to do just this quick toast here. Here's to health, wealth, love, and the time to enjoy it. And to having fun while making money. Cheers to you. You've been this incredible audience with me today. And just want to let you know that I have some free gifts. I'm going to put these in the chat. And in my contact in a call to action. I'm going to put those in the chat. I'm going to stop the share because I think those are probably the easiest ways to share those with you. And then invite, I know we're down on time, but invite any, questions that you might have. Let me just get this into the chat quickly. The free gifts, and then where you might go deeper. First, copy.
Wow, Carmen.
Oops. And then let me put in my contact information. So, if you want to, oops, why did I do that differently?
And there are people that might need to leave in
I know
a
that.
moment
I just want to
here.
put my contact.
Yeah, and
So-
we will also send those out by email to people who were here.
I know how some people like to just save the chat, and that you have it then. But I know there's only a couple minutes left. I timed it right on. I've got my little timer here, and I know I had to omit the Geotran codes, but it was for a reason, unfortunately, because that requires just a little bit more explanation than I had time for. But I welcome any final thoughts or questions that you might have in just the last couple minutes if you don't have to leave real quickly, because I'm here.
And there are comments coming in through chat, just so you know.
Okay.
And I think it's also a good reason why we will invite you back in the future. For sure. This was really, really good. And special thank you to you for saying yes to us. And for those of you who were here, thanks for coming and for continuing to nurture this space. I did put in the survey in the chat. feel free to respond with, comments, suggestions, questions, or just feedback on how this session, went.
Yeah.
So we hope to see you again in the August edition of Coaching in Context webinar.
Yeah,
Comments,
and
yeah.
my thing is, if you want me to come back, I can share the Geotran and do a soul tie box, because that's another powerful thing that I do, and it's a whole lot of fun. But there was just not enough time to do all of that today. So there's a lot of things I'd love to share because I love what I do. And I want all of you as coaches, because you're giving, you're doing so much to change the world and to raise the vibration of the planet. And I want you to be successful coaches.
Mhm. Thanks. We will advertise it accordingly so that people who are here who might want to come will know it's an opportunity for them to return for the next, the next dose of what you offered. But it was really good, Carmen. Thank you so much.
You're
So
welcome.
thanks, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day and week, and we hope to see you again in the near future.
Thank you.
Yep. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.